I've been wanting to chat with you for quite a while. Every time I join one of your Twitch live streams, okay, I'm always like just so delighted. And I don't spend as much time nowadays on Twitch, like either streaming on Twitch or watching Twitch. But when I do, like your talents know no bounds. Let me just start off and say, like, when you do your improv, your freestyles, right? When you see comments and you're just flowing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I joined the right stream here. So I just wanted to start with that awesome compliment for you and let you know, like, it's really, really awesome.
Dude, thank you so much. That definitely wasn't something that I really did too much live before Twitch streaming.
Okay.
But obviously, like when you're entertaining and you're in front of a chat box and you're mid-song but are wanting to respond to the action that's happening in the room,
Yes. Yes.
it's like a very natural way of still flowing with the music and the sound while also like acknowledging the energy that's happening around you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I mean, from a streaming perspective versus, someone just watching something on YouTube or something like that, like from what I understand, because you've been doing this for quite a while, like that is so paramount, right? For the viewers, the people that are watching to feel seen and feel acknowledged and feel a part of what your talents and what you're displaying on there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what sets streaming apart, in a way, what differentiates it, especially from doing a live show with a live audience, because even though it's always an energy exchange between the crowd and the performer, I think with streaming, it's something very unique because it feels more conversational, and I get to share more of myself, more of my, just like my personal musings. I tell stories. We have sidebar conversations between the set, which is not something that you can do, when you're on stage with a band and you have a captive audience. It's like a whole other medium almost to me, even though they're often compared, they feel very different.
Yeah, and you've done both, haven't you? You've obviously the streaming, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, some in-person stuff where maybe you would even kind of have the in-person and the stream kind of happening simultaneously, where you're like balancing, monitoring chat a little bit and engaging, which I'm sure has to be its own category, kind of doing both simultaneously, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's true.
for
These
sure.
days I try to keep it pretty clean. When I'm playing with my band, I'm there like, and my full attention is on whoever's at that in-person show. But I have done a really beautiful show in the past where we had the chat room on a or a projector screen
Nice.
during the set. So it was like part of the spectacle, which I thought was very cool. I think we'll like continue to see more like live and virtual integration in the
Yeah.
concert scene.
Yeah.
Exciting to see what that is going to look like.
Yeah, it's its own thing. And the most recent stream that I joined, I'm pretty sure I put a comment in about your keyboard that you are currently using and loving, the Montage M8X. You have is it the 88 key you have? The
Yep.
Yeah, that thing
Gotta
is
be.
so, it has to be. We need the weighted keys out here as us pianists,
I
right? That
know.
is
I know.
makes all the difference. It really does. That keyboard is awesome, isn't it?
Oh, it's so sick, especially for my show because we do such a wide variety of songs. And if you're just on the keys and maybe guitar for the set and you want to add variety, I mean the montage has so many options.
Yeah.
Like I grew up working on an old Yamaha workstation like this. It was my first keyboard, and so when the montage dropped, I think sentimentality grabbed a hold of me,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
I want like a big spaceship feeling workstation that I can kind of bounce around, add variety into the set, and I am loving it. What are you playing these days? Like what's
Yeah,
got your
yeah.
heart?
Okay, so and we'll definitely talk this through. So currently, to answer the question, I'm using a Nord Piano 5, which is over here, actually,
Beautiful,
over
classic.
here. Yeah, in that setting,
Yes,
area.
sir.
And then behind me right now, I am using, so I had the Montage M8X for a while. I was using it. I have this partnership where I can get gear on loan and make content, etc. So I was using it and loved it. But behind me here, I have the Roland Phantom. Is it called the EX? Yeah, the Phantom EX6, which is their latest Phantom that came out. And so I've used both of them, both the Montage and the Phantoms, extensively. And one of the areas that the Phantom excels for me personally, and my like unique way of using it, is like I'm able to produce music on it standalone. It has like a full-fledged, for the things that I like doing, workstation where you could, loop, and you can do all that stuff without needing to connect it to a DAW, which I understand Yamaha decided to remove a lot of those functionalities because in their mind, and I think this is actually reality for most people, probably, people that are investing thousands of dollars on this keyboard, more than likely they're going to want to and need to use it with a DAW. But for me, I like not being tethered to the computer. That's always been like my thing. And so I made some crazy stuff. I made some really, really awesome sounding stuff on this keyboard back here that I made when I had the original Phantom from 2018 that I purchased, and then ended up selling that for the 888 key version, and then ended up selling that, kind of bounce all over the place. But the long and short is, now that I have the latest version, I'm like so excited to tap back into this music that I haven't touched or heard, right, in years now. And I'm like listening to it, I'm feeling creative and I'm feeling excited. So it's a really, really good space right now.
Yeah. And my producer and I, we've been talking a lot about just like kind of analog stuff in general and production that's not within Ableton or Logic.
Yeah.
He recently got the SP404. I don't know if you've like
Very familiar.
dabbled in that at all, but very like kind of another option when it comes to production that's not within a DAW.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to explore that, especially in light of like a lot of the Y2K stuff coming back and like kind of this
Retro.
like, yeah, this like retro feel, like with digital cameras and like older musical equipment and like running that through the 404 and just like seeing what we can get sound wise.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Rick Rubin, but
Very.
I mean, I love him. I think he's like the Jesus Christ for musicians.
Yeah. He's incredible. That's for sure. Yes.
Yeah. He, a part of his book, he talks a lot about limitation and how limitation can really open your mind to a project. So that makes me think, with your Roland, like sticking within the workstation keeps you limited, which can also keep you focused and like drive the direction of the project.
That is so worth Annelle unpacking right now, because that is it's so true. You said it. I've spoken to so many people about this, and it is so true. Like, I had an opportunity about 2 years ago that was presented to me where, as I alluded to earlier, where I had a chance to, get gear on loan for as long as I want and no strings attached. I don't have to do anything with it. I can check it out, try it. And that was like the best thing that, and at the time, that could ever happen to me. I'm like, I don't have to pay for it. I can try anything out. And it was incredible. And I went a little crazy the first few months. I was like, let me get these 7 things right now in the studio. And when I get them here, I'm like looking around, I'm like, where do I start? There's so much, and it's overwhelming. And now, that was like 2 years ago. And it took me a while to kind of get to a space where I am right now. But now I am so intentional about like not having anything around me that doesn't need to be there, because it has an adverse effect. I've learned this. And social media is a part of that. You see all the new gear, you see all the new updates to the gear, right? And it gets so overwhelming. So it's like an awakening. I'm like, I'm a pianist. I love playing classical music. I love producing interesting, weird things that I love listening to, that maybe there's going to be an audience that also, has the same similar taste. And that's what I'm like leaning into right now. And it's been going great. I've been loving it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I completely resonate with that. I moved back in December, and it was an opportunity for me to kind of reinvent my workspace.
Wow.
And I realized that like when you're moving, you move into this new space and you're moving things like 1 by 1, 2 by 2, the space is very sparse, and I was like, wow, this feels so clear.
Yeah.
It's so much easier for me to focus. And then once I started moving in all of my excess gear,
Mm-hmm.
which, like, you know how it is, it's so hard to part with your
Mm.
gear, because I can just rationalize it in my mind. What if this one thing comes up and I need this
Yeah.
piece for this, or like I invested time into putting this together, I don't want to take it apart.
Yep.
And now I'm the same way. I've kind of rehomed and sold off the things that I don't need. I want my space to be like as clear as possible. Get
Mm-hmm.
rid of excess clutter, like get rid of too many options. I mean, even the montage, I love this thing to death.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not I haven't even explored, like, I would say
Hmm.
10% of
Mm-hmm.
like its capabilities, because it's so much.
Can be overwhelming.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Let me say this too, montage. So from a sound design perspective, people who love crafting their own, sonic, tapestry that they can then use in their productions, which is not my space at all. I don't like designing sound. I like creating amazing sounding melodies and chords, etc., with the inspiring sounds that are already there, which I think the montage is like incredible at that. But the super knob, which some people might look at, may look at, I don't even know, as like gimmick or whatever, that thing, I'm sure you use it, like it's like you don't have to think about anything. You can just morph the sound without knowing the intricate aspects of what's happening, and it is just so fun to use and so fun to explore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially like, because I've played other synths and things before, and it is really fun to get into the specifics once you understand exactly how to manipulate a synth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this whole ecosystem you can get very lost in.
Right.
But if I'm, let's say I'm streaming and I'm in the middle of like a hype train's going on. We got a big raid. There's a ton going on in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
I got like 10 notifications that are new. People are talking to me. I'm mid song. I want to do something fresh
Mm-hmm.
sonically,
Mm.
but I'm already here
Mm-hmm.
with like the capacity that my brain is like all the things I'm processing.
Yeah.
The super knob is my best friend. I'm
Yeah.
like, perfect. You, universe, decide
Yeah.
what's about to happen with
Yep.
the sound.
Yep. Oh man, it's incredible. And yeah, so we're gonna talk about Twitch in a moment, because there's so much that I want to like learn and be able to have you share with the audience of people who may be curious, maybe looking to stream, etc. So we'll get into that. But before we do that, little Annelle, what were you like growing up? Share with the world. I want to learn about you.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, this question is like so sweet, because I
Mm.
think that who we become as adults is very much rooted in who we were as kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the older I get, the closer I get to little Annelle.
Wow.
Um,
Love that.
I I really think that like a lot of growing up is like unlearning, unprogramming, sifting through the things that have like changed us in ways that we maybe don't want to be changed, or we want to return to our roots.
Mm. Yeah.
Little Annelle was outdoors all the time. I loved writing. I loved fantasy. I was real big into like Lord of the Rings
Mm-hmm.
and the Inheritance series, which had dragons and stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved writing. I loved reading so much. I thought maybe I could be like a fantasy novelist at 12.
Okay.
So I have like a ton of writing from that time. And I also wrote musicals. So from a young age, I was like very interested in storytelling, very inspired by the outdoors. And I was a big tomboy too. I guess you could say, like, I used to catch snakes and lizards, and I was outside a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was before the iPad kids. I didn't grow up with
Yeah.
like a little electronic toy.
Yeah, which is so fortunate that we weren't. I mean, it is what it is with the world currently. iPads are cool. I have one. I use it all the
Yeah.
time. But yeah, you're so right. There's something special, right, about the analog, the physical aspect growing up that sadly, most kids that are growing up now, like parents have to go above and beyond to even have a chance of giving them that.
Yeah. It's a brave new world for
This,
sure.
that it is. It most certainly is. And where did you grow up?
I was military. I grew up in a military family, so I
Okay.
was born in New Mexico, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in California, Colorado, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
My family retired in North Carolina.
Okay.
My father did. Um, and so growing up, I was very accustomed to impermanence.
Mm.
Um, I was constantly changing schools and meeting new people, which I think made me very bold. I'm good
Mm.
at talking to strangers,
Okay.
but also I feel a little bit like a drifter. Where I live now is the closest location, I guess, that's ever felt like home. But I don't have the experience of being like, this is my city, like
Mm-hmm.
this is where I was born, this is where I was
Where you're
raised.
repping.
Yeah, right. And a
Right.
lot of people in the South, like the culture here is people stick around,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little bit of an anomaly in some areas
Mm-hmm.
here.
You mentioned writing musicals along with a lot of other, creative aspects, of your adolescence. So, like, from a musical perspective, like, around what age did you start getting into, like, creating, playing instruments, singing, like that type of stuff?
Um, I I think I really started to find my own voice around like 13 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
The things that plagued me at school socially began to like bubble to the surface, whether it was like I had some feelings for some kid in my class,
Mm-hmm.
or like I was dealing with my own internal world, which is very rich and introspective.
Mm.
And I think that definitely reached a boiling point at about 15 or 16, where I was doing music every day, after school. It was all I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
My first job was being a musician. I thought that was so cool. My friends were getting retail jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to do anything that it took to be a musician off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started gigging at a coffee shop, which led me to gigging at a restaurant, and then this bar, and then this other bar. And
Wow.
I would have like, 2 or 3 gigs a weekend, every weekend,
Mm-hmm.
in high school.
Wow. Incredible. So you were honing this performance or performative aspect of what you're doing now I would say very early.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
having a
I
chance
loved
to,
it.
I mean, that's got to be so cool at cafes. I go to cafes all the time right now. That's where I work from. I love the cafe. I just,
Me too.
it's just so cool. It's so cool. I was there earlier today. Shout out Ambi Coffee, in Central Jersey where I live. And,
Wait, I got something to say about cafes
okay,
before you move on.
please.
So have you ever heard the term third place? Like
No.
people, okay, so there's this idea people spend their lives in 3 places. One is home, one is work, and one is a third place.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
for everybody the third place is different.
Okay.
But part of what I love about cafes is that it's a lot of people's third place.
Wow.
I go to work, in a cafe. I meet friends at the cafe.
Mm.
I have like a creative meeting or something. I'm going to the cafe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I wanted to throw that in there because I feel like the people that spend time at coffee shops really get that,
They
you
understand
know?
that. And I love the fact that you brought that up because I hadn't thought about that explicitly like that. And it makes sense. You start seeing some of the same people, you start having conversations. Like the other day, man, I even wrote a newsletter on this because I just felt like I just wanted to share it. And it was a woman that was sitting next to me that struck up a conversation. There was like sadly like a arson fire earlier the week, so we were like talking about it a little bit. And she asked me a question. She had an accent. Later find out she's from grew up in Australia, and she's out here. She's probably like, I don't know, in her 40s, 50s or something like that. But we ended up, oh my goodness, we ended up talking for like, damn, was it 2 hours or like an hour or something, just so long, and so many things that we were just connecting on, and just like so much good information, good insights. And I was like, I need to do something. And I even asked her, I said, hey, do you mind if I get your email? I'll like put you on like the newsletter. She's like, oh, I would love to, blah, blah. So I was like, yeah, look out for I'm going to write this like as soon as you leave, because I want to like, channel this. And yeah, I wanted to just write about it, how it's just so cool connecting with people. And that is like what moves me more than almost anything, maybe even music, and like just making these connections with people, which is why I do this. Like there's probably going to be some major changes in my life from like, what I spend more time doing, like work wise, and like some good changes, like, things I'm excited about, where I'm going to probably have a lot less time for a lot of the things that I currently do. And when I look at it, like this platform, being able to have intimate, dope, fun conversations with people like yourself, because we, are similar, right, in ways in terms of our creativity and what we work on. Like this is what I love probably more than most of the other things like that I make. And so I'm just blessed and excited to have this platform for sure.
That's beautiful. You deserve this platform. I love your content. I did a little, tour around the channel before I came on today.
Love it.
And I'm just so thoroughly impressed. You're such a pro. I'm so honored to be on the show. And, for everybody who like is a recurrent watcher, it's so great to be joining you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I consume so much music related content on YouTube, as I'm sure you do. And I think it's such a beautiful community. And I love sharing knowledge and having beautiful conversations with other creatives like this. And so every time it happens, I relish the opportunity. So thank you for having me on.
No, definitely appreciate that. And I think when I hear stuff like that, and when I just reflect on the various types of content that you had an opportunity to tour on my channel earlier, I think about like, for sure, this is the stuff that moves the needle for me. The stuff that moves the needle for, most other people, if I look at like all the different types of videos that I make and stuff, typically it is the stuff that I've now learned I like doing the least. Like I don't like doing that type of content. And specifically what it is for me, as I understand, it's this new gear is out. People are searching for it. They want to see what Khordmaster thinks of this new product. And as I mentioned earlier, like there was an aspect of that I thoroughly enjoyed at a time, but now as I'm learning, like that is not creating, like that's like education. That's like learning. I have to learn how to use this in order to get to the point where I can create. And there are people who do this like incredibly well. There's some people that I'm just like blown away, who I watch their content and I'm like, how do you have the time to like learn this stuff so thoroughly, as opposed to me, where maybe I might learn some of it, just enough to be able to talk about it, but it's not really, necessarily that, I mean, I think going to be that beneficial, me talking about it, 20% of what it can do versus this other person who's like thorough, this is their thing. And so it's been like a long journey of, 4 years or so making content. And I think I'm at a place now where like I've like yourself, and I think last week, and I think tomorrow, and then 2 weeks ago, like I'm getting back into the rhythm of scheduling these and getting excited about these, and sometimes a little nervous about these, like hope it's a good conversation and stuff. And now I'm like, okay, this is one thing that's going to be a constant. And then the other thing that I've been doing that I would love to chat with you as we transition a little bit into like live streaming is I love live streaming, just like I think you love live streaming. I'm pretty sure you love it as well, because you do it regularly and you do it and you're amazing at it. It's so incredible. And I've gone through this thing like right now. What I'm doing for live streaming is, YouTube is my main platform, and YouTube has a new live stream thing that they're doing as of a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months now, where if you're live streaming vertically, you have not even a chance, but you're more than likely going to show up on the shorts feed on YouTube. as people are watching shorts, you can just, they'll swipe and they'll like go into a random, I don't know how tight the algorithm is yet with it in terms of your interest, but there's a chance that people will discover you that way, compared to if I did that same exact live stream horizontally, no chance for that, and just some of the subscribers or whatever would show up. So I've been like loving doing that. That has been fun for me. That has been like, you see the people asking questions, and just I have the setup there with like my nice camera and the lights, like all the things that that you've fine-tuned over your live streaming experience. And so I'm excited that I have that platform to be able to just be myself. I like being myself on camera and not having to then edit something afterwards and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've been kind of working on, those two things on my channel lately.
Yeah. That's the great thing about live streaming, versus like editing videos, filming videos. Like when the stream is done, the content is done, and it's like, that was my output into the world today. I think I feel the most fatigue and resistance when I'm creating content and I feel like I have to like put up a face, which I know you don't have to, but I think that when I'm filming a video with the intention of editing it, that is like more of a hurdle that I have to jump through.
Yeah.
Versus I find it more effortless to be myself creating live content. And then if I choose to edit, I go back into my live stream and I take content from my live stream. I don't have to worry about then like performing for the camera. Because I have this beautiful audio and video of me being myself already that I just take and put out. So I'm excited for you. And kind of like the journey that you found yourself on with streaming on YouTube. That's great.
I definitely appreciate that. And I appreciate those insights too. I think just, having clarity and kind of feeling what makes sense. What is I guess that coupled with what your audience is interested in, but ultimately just being, I guess, intentional. And I want to like talk a little bit about your perspective on like how you got started live streaming. So first question is like Twitch. Was Twitch your first space that you used for live streaming, or was there a different platform or something that you used first?
It was my first live streaming platform. I mean, other than I went live on Instagram, I went live on Facebook a couple times during the pandemic, but I had a friend who streamed on Twitch, and they did like, gaming content, which is what Twitch is known for. But during the pandemic, it was a wild time of my life. I had been living in Nashville, working with an artist management company, kind of like courting some publishers, hoping for a publishing deal. And I realized I hated it. I wasn't enjoying myself. I was going to these co-writes and I was working in the studio, but I wasn't performing live. I felt disconnected from my own artist voice. I had kind of like this falling out with my company, and I decided that I wanted to move out of the state and I wanted to return to North Carolina. And I booked probably 6 months worth of shows.
Oh, wow.
Once I moved out. So like winter of 2019 was kind of when my gigs started, and I was planning on going into the summer next year. And I was like, I'm going to grind. This is how I'm going to pay my bills. This is how I'm going to push out. I had just finished this acoustic project, that I wanted to kind of like promote.
Yep.
And then the pandemic canceled every single show I had booked. It was crazy. Yep. I was like, what am I going to do? Right. And I had this music I wanted to share. So, I was like, what the heck? I'm going to stream on Twitch. I had zero expectations. I started on my laptop with, I had like a mixing board from my gigging days. So I just used an external mixing board, ran it through my laptop, used my laptop webcam. It was so grainy. Yeah.
Oh man.
It was the lo-fi days.
Yeah. You talked about retro earlier. That's literally that's what
right.
it was.
that's the aesthetic right there. And I started in like, I was fortunate in that I was in a similar position as many other people, which was I was looking for connection, I was looking for community, and I was looking to share music, which I think is the universal language. I think it's something that like gets humanity through the darkest of times.
Wow.
Honestly,
Yep.
I think music is medicine, and so my community formed fairly quickly, and it kind of just snowballed. And as I continued streaming, I would be like, hey, I really want to get a camera, and then people would donate for a camera.
Wow.
We'd kind of slowly build the setup as support for the channel started coming in. And I mean, like the rest is history. Streaming on Twitch has totally changed my life. It's changed, I think, the trajectory of me as an artist and as a person. It's taught me so much about connecting with people, what it really means to share music. It's like changed my life philosophy in so many ways. And I think the biggest thing, which kind of comes full circle to what we said, is it's empowered me to be myself more of the time. It's like you're just constantly putting in reps, making music on the spot, being a conversationalist on the spot, being yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not sustainable. So yeah, beautiful story.
Yeah, I'm so glad you went back to that time frame where, okay, the pandemic was so significant in so many people's lives, and it's always interesting for me hearing, like how it affected, person A to person B. And in your case, you're like making this major change, just to kind of reiterate, shortly recap what you mentioned, but you're making this major change in your life that you're probably so excited. You said you booked out 6 months or so of shows. So you're probably like, this is the start of this amazing thing. You had no idea, no way of knowing that this current version of you 4 years later is like that resulted in you starting, your live streaming on your grainy MacBook. I'm assuming MacBook, maybe laptop. I don't know. Maybe HP.
No, it's a little Mac.
MacBook camera. Man, that's so cool. And so at a time, I've probably had conversations with maybe like 10 to 12, 15 or so, like music Twitch streamers. You're the first in a while, but I went like many, like maybe a year or two ago, something like that. And as I sit here, I was sharing all the exciting aspects of YouTube vertical live streaming. It's cool. You get more subscribers, you get people to watch, etc. What you don't get on there, or nothing even close to it, that you do get on Twitch, is the community aspect, or at least not yet. Maybe not yet, but who knows if they make changes and etc. But let's talk raids. Raids are this thing, for those of you who don't know, that are one of the dopest things ever. They're so cool to be raided, but also, as I'm sure you have experienced at the end of one of your streams where you're going to raid somebody, either someone you know or a random person, like you're giving back. Like, okay, my community still wants to hang. Here you go. I'm going to bestow upon you this blessing of this raid of like that. That is like one time. All right. So there's a girl, a woman who I also had on. Her name is Heyman. She's like into ambient music production and singing and like all this type of stuff. And I raided her because we have like a, relationship on Instagram. We like each other's posts. We both use a lot of the same products and stuff. And she had just started live streaming, and I had just started getting a little bit consistent on Twitch. And I was like, all right, guys, she's based in Australia. Second mention of Australia in today's conversation. She's mentioned.
It's in the air.
It's happening. And so she's based out there. So like at 2 a.m. or whenever I was ending, it was like a convenient time that she was like live streaming, and she had just started. And I was her first raid, right? So I raided her with a few people. I don't even know how many people, like a handful of people that were hanging out with me. And she didn't know how to respond. And she started crying on the live stream, et cetera, et cetera. And it was just such a wholesome moment. Now, fast forward 2 years later or so, she's been extremely consistent. I don't know how many days a week she's live streaming, but she's like been crushing it on that platform with her community and all this stuff. And I'm like it's like tailor made for her. It's like you can't even imagine her not having this thing because it's like perfect for her. This thing that she kind of created, and so I say all that to say that there's like an ongoing thing with me where I'm like toe in, toe out. Like I would like after this conversation, I'm like, all right, F it. We're going back to Twitch, guys. YouTube is going to be for this. Twitch is going to be for that, right? For this authentic, just creation thing. And I don't know. I think the way my mind works, it's like it's not. I have ideas and I have all these different things, and I know that I struggle with like executing and just being like, yo, I'm going to spend a year just live streaming on Twitch. Forget everything else. I'm still going to do the Khordmaster Keys and do other things, but like from live streaming, I'm not like messing around with anything else. Maybe I'll like do a little mini thing over there, but like my main platform is going to be this. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to like I can say all these things, and I feel quite strongly that if I execute them, if I pick 1 to 2 days in the week, just like I have my tutoring business, my piano lessons, I have things scheduled where I need to show up for. So if I approach this the same way, I feel like it would, there's no way that it wouldn't be a good thing for me. So maybe this is the realization where it's like, yo, just do it. Just schedule it and stay, locked in for a set period of time. So do you think I should? I probably should do it, shouldn't I? Yeah, I should.
I mean, you can also stream on multiple platforms at once, which I know some creators do. I haven't explored that myself, but I would look into it to see. I think that's becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
Twitch no longer has an exclusivity rule. So like that kind of opens up your possibilities.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I think it's like in this day and age, it's always going to kind of be this dance, between platforms. And I don't know if the dance should ever go away. I don't know if it's really about finding like the platform for you. I think it's, YouTube and Twitch stand out in my mind as two platforms that aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Twitch is so established in the live streaming world that I think even if it were to like kind of morph into something new or something else, it would still be there, as a platform. And I see the same with YouTube. YouTube is like one of the oldest in the game.
Yeah.
So I think like all creators are wise to put more eggs in different baskets, and I think of different platforms as different mediums. Let's say you're a painter and like you're painting in watercolor here and you're painting in oil over here. Like
Great analogy.
You may approach the two differently, but like I think the skills that you gain from both will bleed into the other. And it's good just like as an artist. I'm sure you can relate to like just pushing yourself on different instruments, different workstations, like using a variety of gear only hones your craft, just like creating for more than one platform will.
That makes so much sense. I think of someone by the name of Frank Tedesco, another of the many Khordmaster Keys alum, people who I've had on this platform. And it's very interesting what you just said, right? In the sense of, like for me, YouTube, when I live stream on there, maybe it's more educational. Maybe I'm teaching chord progressions. Twitch, maybe it's just fully, singing, performing, having fun, experimenting, et cetera, trying things out like you mentioned and kind of seeing what feels right. So Frank does on his Twitch channel, and both his Twitch and YouTube are like, quite prominent. But they're very specific with what he does on each platform musically. So he uses actually the Roland Phantom, the 88 key version of that, and he's an amazing pianist and listens by ear and creates stuff on the spot. And so when I join his Twitch streams, he'll be interacting, he'll be playing, he'll be taking requests, that type of thing, right? Kind of standard, but just he's an amazing player. So it's like, you don't necessarily need that much more than that. You just like blown away by his vibe and the way he plays and stuff. on YouTube, all you'll see on his YouTube is his what is it called? Omegle. Have you heard of this platform before? Omegle. I don't know if you know about it.
I've heard of it, but
Heard
I'm
of it?
not very familiar.
Okay. I'm only familiar through his content, but it's essentially like some type of a you can live chat, video chat with random people, that type of thing. So it's
Okay.
like it gets weird. There's like weird stuff that happens naturally on something like that if you just video chatting with random people. But in his case, he does that, and I'm sure his video editor takes out all the crazy stuff. But he has like people who see this professional setup, and then they're like, "Hey," he's like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, request a song," kind of thing, and then they tell him a song, and then he like creates it on the spot, not just playing it, but like loops it, and it's just super well done. And then their reactions, right? The zoom ins on their face, like what, like, from someone who's just doing some crazy nonsense on, a second before to this like professional thing where you're like, wow, how did I stumble in here kind of thing. People are usually blown away. So I think that's a good example of like, finding what works on each platform and leveraging and kind
Yeah.
of moving, keeping the rhythm kind of with both of them.
Yeah. Because I mean, the same content is not going to perform the same,
Yeah,
on each platform. So you should cater to each one.
for
But
sure.
gosh, I mean, like we could talk forever about being content creators, despite the fact that we're primarily artists. I
So
think it's
true.
like, and it's an industry that's like, if you're an artist, you are now also a content creator. And I don't mean to say that in like a pessimistic way.
Yeah.
Like Erica Badu is like one of my idols. I think she's incredible. And she, in an interview, was talking about how, like, for like each generation and each time period, artists are asked to rise to the occasion and adapt
Yeah.
to whatever the technology is, whatever the state of society is in terms of like what's going to be hot in presenting content, presenting music, whether it's CDs, radio play, when MTV came out, like there's all of this resistance from artists when it comes to like delving into these different avenues for sharing and promotion,
Yeah.
but it's never going to end, so you just have to find your flow and adapt.
That's it. How do you, from your perspective, like with social media, for example, Instagram, TikTok, etc., like what is your relationship with these platforms, knowing that we kind of need to have a presence on them and, show ourselves and, be ourselves and etc. to get new fans and stuff, but then also like the struggle of the negative aspects of them and kind of taming that and controlling that. How do you kind of balance that whole tandem?
I mean, I think I have an evolving relationship with social media right now. I'm very much like the last half a year of my life. I feel like I've been undergoing real change in terms of the way that I want to approach my presence online. I think that the best change that I've made is constantly reiterating to myself that I am a creator and I try to be less of a consumer. And when I get on the platform, like I always ask, why am I here? If I'm scrolling to run away from an emotion or pass the time or procrastinate, I have many other options for things that I can do,
Yeah.
for those things. I try not to make it social media. If I'm going to be on there, I'm either actively engaging with content or I'm creating. And I try not to consume only where it's necessary, because otherwise I think it's just like, it really does feel like a toxin to me.
Yeah.
I notice my energy start to drain quicker. It's harder for me to like find a flow after that. My brain has just been so overstimulated.
Yeah.
And in general, I believe in being vulnerable. I believe in being yourself. I think in an era where people are consuming like very manicured, perfect content, and I say perfect like this, but I mean like with AI, and also how like a lot of live music is being presented after being run through a DAW, you know, and like tuned or mixed. It can feel really daunting to compete with that
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And I think that what I'd like to do is continue to remind myself to be as authentic as I can, and to be as art forward as I can. And I think people ultimately do crave that, and will continue to crave it more and more as we're continually fed like content that looks perfect. And we already see this in artists that we love, you know, like Chapel Roan, who's like on a trajectory to the stars right now. People love her, and part of the reason people really do like love and engage with her content is because of her vulnerability and her transparency. So as an artist, I think you can use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
And use like, yeah, I love to see, at least I'd love to see people leaning into raw vocals sometimes. You know, I'd love to see people leaning into live content more, things that feel like more tangible,
Yeah.
like real to me. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that wave where I can.
Me too. I love that. I love the way that you said that too. That is, yeah, that is the journey that a lot of us are on, and it's a topic that I just really enjoy having with other musicians, creators, artists, etc. I think there's probably only one person who I've had on and asked that question, and I guess they got it in the sense of like they don't feel like, honestly, they don't feel adversely affected that much or at all by social media. Like they fine tune the way that they use it, I guess, similar to what you're talking about, how you're like adjusting using it and how you're kind of your relationship with it. But it was quite interesting because yeah, everybody else is just like, yeah, it's like we need to be there, but in a perfect world, like, okay, take this for example. Like, I love connecting with people. I love having people on this platform. Now, like through social media is a major way that I check people's stuff out, chat with them, schedule, etc. And so it's like there's, people from Australia, for example, third time, people from across the world, right, that we want to connect with. If social media wasn't around, there would or might be, I guess, some other way to be able to connect with those people. But social media, Instagram makes it incredibly easy and immediate. So I like being able to take advantage of that for sure. But I'm constantly thinking about how to make these small changes, from periodically deleting it from my phone for a week or something, and just living.
Yes.
That's been
Taking
like
a break.
a huge thing, right? So that's like,
Yep.
that's, I think maybe even, I don't know, I don't have a structure where it's like every blank, but first week of the month, or yeah, something like that could be something interesting to look at. And then, oh yeah, so it's very interesting, right? So like I can post stuff on Instagram from my laptop on Instagram.com if I wanted to, but it's like there's so many things that they remove that should just be obviously able to do. It's like, for example, if I'm putting a picture up and I'm like, I want to type on my keyboard instead of typing on my phone a caption, I want to type, and like, I know this is the case. Last time I tried it, maybe weeks ago, I don't know when it was, but like if you're in the caption box and you like want to do a line break and go like down a couple lines, Enter doesn't even do that there. Enter doesn't do it. When I'm like, that's weird.
Oh.
So I believe that it's like they don't want you doing that on the computer. They want you to have it on your phone. So there is a thing for anyone listening. I would say it's a great idea to like look at, especially when what you mentioned about more creating and less consuming. So there's an app called Meta Business Suite, and obviously Meta with Facebook and Instagram, they own both. And so this allows you on your phone to respond to comments, to check messages, to post content, including stories. There's a couple limitations on there, such as if you put a story up with this app, first party app, and if I tagged you in a story, you, for whatever reason, won't get the tag and you can't reshare it. So that's a nuisance, of course, because you would want to be able to have that control. But the best thing about it is that you can't see any other content on there. It's not Instagram. You're not looking. You can just post stuff. So for me, even though I don't have it on my phone currently, I might be, as I'm talking about it now, reminding myself like now might be a good time to shift back to that for some period of time, to be less involved with other people's stuff. But it's all a give and take, like you said, right? Because there's a sense of community. There's people that you do, people that you do care about that also post that you want to see what they're doing. And so it's like, it's just figuring out that balance that's ongoing. And I think very smart people that work for these companies made it so that it's not a simple solution at all. It's like a very complicated solution to figure out how to leverage it and not be used by it.
Well said.
Thank you. So we're going to go into some rapid fire questions. Yes, specifically ones that I did not put in the email. Okay. That's why this is like
scary.
Exactly. Like, how could I do such a thing? Right. It's like, no, we want these to be fun. And we're going to start with a very simple question that goes like this. Why am I being so? Okay. So name a place that you've visited that you loved.
Joshua Tree,
Where-
California.
Tell me about it.
Wait,
Never heard of it.
Is that Joshua Tree?
California.
Is that in Arizona? Actually, we drove. So I had a gig in LA.
Okay.
And we drove out to Joshua Tree. It is a national park with Joshua trees. Which, if you've never seen a Joshua tree, you should give them a quick Google. They look like something out of Dr. Seuss.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
it's like it's a beautiful desert scape. I went over a period of time where there were meteor showers.
Okay.
And so
wow, that's
me and a
cool.
couple of friends, we just like had a fire and watched meteors all night.
Wow.
And being in the desert, my favorite thing about being in the desert is the silence. I love silence. It's like the most beautiful music to me sometimes because like I think silence is such an underutilized element of music, number one. And number two, I don't know, like I feel like I don't get enough silence in my life. So I love it. So when I think of Joshua Tree, I think of whimsical nature, stars, and silence.
Wow, that's beautiful. I did the Google search, and I'm like, yeah, that is so cool. They're like, yeah, I've never seen anything like it before. I'm trying to describe it, but yeah, the way you described it was cool. You got the branch, and you got just kind of like, they just kind of go off in any direction, and they're like,
they look like little cacti, like they're.
That's what. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Things all the time.
There you go. Good job. Can you do that one more time, please? Little cacti. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Love it. Yes. Okay. We're imitating cacti out here on Khordmaster Keys. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Cool. And that's why this question is awesome, because a lot of the time people say places that I've never heard of, and I'm just building up these. That would be cool too. Just have a list of every single place. I don't know how I would do that. It's a lot of episodes to go through, but maybe I'll do it one day. Maybe AI will do it for me one day. There we go. I was
gonna say,
cool.
AI is your friend.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. Very good. Yeah. For now. Yeah, well said. Okay. Next question is, name a TV show and a movie that you love.
Okay. Movie. I'm gonna do that first. This is a Studio Ghibli.
Yes, heard of them.
I've pronounced different ways. This is a Studio Ghibli movie. It's called, I think, Castle in the Sky. I recently watched it. It's an older Studio Ghibli piece. It could be as old as the 70s or the 80s. I would need to look. Really underrated. I think I hadn't heard of it before I watched it, because I've seen the others.
Okay.
Just like a beautiful story. I really like Studio Ghibli stuff because it's like kind of scary, and there's always some big beautiful life lesson to be learned in almost everything. I feel like they really acknowledge like the unseen world, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that life ultimately is a lot like a Studio Ghibli movie. And then a TV show, I am so obsessed with Demon Slayer. It's an anime.
Heard of
I
it.
don't know if you're like an anime watcher.
I got. Yes.
This was my very first anime I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
A friend of mine introduced me during the quarantine.
Mm.
I wasn't really sure what to make of it at first, but I think it's just like one of the most epic, heroic stories I have seen as of late. I mean, like there's just a protagonist that you absolutely adore and identify with and champion who overcomes impossible odds. It's like, I think anime as an art form, I love it because there's a lot of emotion
Yeah.
in it. Like a lot of the characters are androgynous to me. It just feels like, I don't know, it feels really fresh. So, and I guess Studio Ghibli and Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer. Okay. Definitely heard of it. And this is my periodic or monthly or whatever reminder to get back into some anime, which every single one that I've watched, which is only like 3, Dragon Ball Z, One Punch Man, Death Note. I think those are the only 3 that I've seen in their entirety.
Good ones.
But there's so many other ones, and there's so many other ones that are like critically acclaimed that I'm like, yeah. Like, I've been, so my show, I have to give a shout out to that I just finished for the second time. And I feel like maybe for the rest of my life, I'm obsessed with this show. And I feel as though every few years I'm going to watch it. And it's been like 2 years since I last watched it. It's called White Lotus. I don't want to build it up too much. Have you heard of this before?
Oh, yeah. I've heard of this.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So White Lotus changed my life for the better. It's a show that has no moments in it that are not necessary. So it values my time, which is super important. I don't have to watch 9 seasons of something in order to get it. It's like one every season standalone. It's only 2 so far. Third one's coming out at some point. And season 2 particularly, the one I just rewatched just now, it's like, okay, it values the time. It's like, I think 9 episodes. Music, amazing. Makes you feel like you're on vacation because it's shot in Sicily and it's all this vacation stuff happening. Story, amazing. Conflict and drama, conflict between characters and conversations and edginess, amazing. Acting, amazing. There's probably one other thing I think I'm missing, but just like cinematography, I guess, right? Also, just like the way it's shot. It changed my whole mood rewatching it. I just feel, I don't know, confident. I feel creative. I feel excited knowing that that the world that we live in is a world that this exists, and it's a world that the 3rd season of it is already shot and it's gonna be out at some point in like the near future. So I couldn't talk more about this show. It is, I have to say, it's my favorite show just because there are shows that I really loved growing up, like 24, which is an amazing show that I watched back in the day, like throwback. But that's 9 seasons or whatever. That's a long commitment. This is like, I just love it so much. So I had to talk about that real quick. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It's great when you find a show that leaves you feeling like that. That's how Demon Slayer leaves me. Like, whatever it is, for anyone watching, like, I'm sure y'all have a show that comes to mind.
Yes.
Where you feel re-inspired and reinvigorated about life. Like, that's when you're really resonating and, like, you found... Because, I mean, like, shows, TV, it's just as much art as any other form.
Yep.
And I think, like, my favorites are the ones that I feel leave me changed or leave me inspired.
Yes.
In general, that's how I feel about art. I love to be changed by it.
Yeah.
I love to be inspired by it. I love to be provoked to thought.
Yeah.
Ponderings afterwards.
Absolutely. And yeah, okay. So Demon Slayer, how many seasons about? Is it like one of them long joints?
I think,
like medium?
It's actively coming out.
Okay, cool.
We just got like the last episode in the current series or the current season. I think there's a bit of confusion about how many seasons there are. I think there are 4 or 5. There's like a movie that fits in there, so
Oh,
someone
yeah.
check me to be sure.
Okay.
But definitely not like you could totally catch up and be a part of like this cultural
What's happening?
phenomena if you
Yeah.
want to.
Love that. Okay. Well, this might be the reminder, as long as I don't forget, to check it out. Is it like a Netflix thing, or you got to have one of the anime? Do you know where it's at? Where do you watch it? Or
I've seen it. I've seen it on HBO. I think you can
oh,
get it there.
okay.
No, wait.
Max?
Hulu.
Hulu.
I
Okay.
don't know.
I'm
You
gonna
should
check.
ask.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
check.
ask the internet,
I'll
not
figure it
me.
out. They'll let us know during the live premiere. Let us know in the comments below. We have like 12 people like commenting on there, like, yeah, it's here. It's like, all right, thanks.
Yes, please.
By that point, I would have already have checked, but I do appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much, future viewers. Okay, last question of the evening. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I need to figure out. There's 2 different versions of said question. I'm going to ask you both of them. You can answer it whichever way that you like. Okay, you have a chance to have a nice lunch/dinner with any person. The way the question is asked, it could be any living person or any person spanning the history of time. You could answer it either way, whatever way makes more sense for you.
I mean, I feel like I'm gonna pick Erica Badu.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
Either way,
Yeah.
I, that's just like her worldviews, the way that she moves through the world, the art that she makes, her fashion, her live performance, her confidence, her lyricism, which is like so profound in how vulnerable it is, or like how stream of consciousness it feels, or how playful it feels. She's been my comfort artist for the last like half a year, which has been like this really important time of transition for me. And so I just feel
Wow.
like my heart would ask to meet with her, and I probably just observe her up close, and I think like something that I want for all people I meet and myself is just like the feeling confident and secure in everything that makes you unique, everything that would stand out, against like society's expectations,
Yeah.
whatever those are.
Yeah.
Human beings are so funny. We're all so interesting and weird. And I am reminded of that when I'm around people that are really being themselves. And I think that Erica does that. So she's an icon.
How did you
Okay,
get sort of
that's all.
reintroduced to her? Like half a year, you said, or so. Is it like you just randomly checked in, or someone said, "Have you listened?" Or
I had a project of hers shared with me. My producer and I were talking about like trying not to let barriers in terms of like access to equipment stop us from creating music. Like at the time we were on the road, and he brought up one of Erica Badu's albums that she produced herself on the road. And like you can tell like when you listen to the record, it has a quality about it, like I heard somebody talking about a Grimes record that was produced in GarageBand, and it has like a GarageBand like taste
Yeah.
to it or something,
right.
And this record wasn't produced in GarageBand, but it has a certain quality.
Yeah.
And then after listening to that music, I was hooked. I started watching like her interviews next and her live performances. And so I have my producer to thank, but yeah, I feel like once you fall into the Erica Badu rabbit hole, you fall all the way in. So
That's
big plug.
That's incredible to have. And I've only listened to a handful of her stuff. So I feel like 2 things I want to say, and then we're gonna wrap up. One is I'm gonna listen to said project if you share the name of it. If you remember the name?
Yeah, let me I can see the artwork
Sure.
now, but let me get the name for you.
Because I'm definitely curious about that. And then the other thing, as you're looking that up, I just thought in my mind, like I saw this glimpse into the future where I always kind of close with this question, and for the people who answer it with living individuals, I was just like, how cool would it be to like grow this into something that's super authentic, and then eventually be able to have these individuals that want to be met by the us of the world, creators like us, to like have her on the platform, or even an extension of that, like to facilitate the meeting. Like I was just thinking, as you basically,
That'd be so special.
It would be so cool. I was just thinking, like, you are just so incredibly talented at what you do, right? So like if there was like some 20-second or 60-second like clip of some of the stuff you do, because Erykah Badu may not know. I'm not gonna say she definitely does know. She may not know about the stuff you do. But if it was that, and then right after it, what you just said, like that, if I'm Erykah Badu, I would be intrigued, I think, right? Like someone who's so talented in what he or she is doing, and then able to speak about wanting to meet me, like I might be intrigued. I think I would be intrigued. Like even, okay, think of it like you right now. Like say if someone really wanted to meet you in person, and they spoke the way that you just spoke about Erykah Badu, like why they want to meet you and stuff. And then there's like whatever musical or creative stuff they're doing, you have a glimpse of what they're doing, and it's like of strong quality. I feel like that would kind of cut through the noise. So I don't know exactly what that means, but I got some ideas. I got some things to work on here. You know, I'm about to have you meet Erykah Badu soon. Yes, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, even on a smaller scale, you know, like I think the music community across platforms is very integrated. You know, so many creators like admiring one another. It would be a beautiful thing to facilitate at any level. I have to ask before we wrap,
Please.
Do you want to hear a snippet of the single that I'm dropping later this month?
Not only do I want to, I need to, and I forgot to ask you.
So I asked Khordmaster if he would be willing to play this snippet. This is a really exciting time for me. My producer and I have been working on this sound that we're kind of calling Southern Indie. It started as Southern Indie Soul Pop. And then we were like, it's a mouthful. Okay. We got to cut it down. And kind of like this idea of the reclamation of the word Southern. You think country when you think Southern, but there are a lot of musicians in the South that are making like very distinct indie music. So number one, this is a really exciting sound for us. We're getting very adventurous with this song.
Yes.
This is my first release, you know, in the last 6 months, which is this time period I've been referencing constantly. And so it's like this really fun, like return to self and also reinvention of self. The song, it's called Sun Creature. I'd love to like kind of hear what you think, and then maybe talk about like the influences or what's inspired me with the writing. But I'm excited to see your reaction.
I am so excited. And I mean, you know what it is? As I'm listening to that and I'm saying to myself, man, how did I forget? It's like, oh, I know how and why I forgot. It's like we just engaged in what we'll call a top tier conversation. We were just like talking about all the things. We had a beautiful
conversation.
Yeah. So, and now we can top it off with this. I'm like very excited to hear this. And yes, you're right about the word Southern. When you think about music, there's a specific sound that is associated with it. And I love the experimental aspect. I want to hear it. I'm excited. I'm very excited. We got 53 seconds of this vibe right now. All right, here we go.
I love I feel so good that it hurts. Summertime, I'm green and loud. Red eyes deep in the sun. Wanna take my girls around the world. Summertime, I'm long and cold-blooded. Baking the rays and slither around. Sun creature, you're looking weirder. Spots and changing skin, like the riverbed you're swimming in. No, sun creature, you got new features. Never seen
Wow. Okay, let's talk about it immediately. So, I love things that are different. When it comes to music, we talked about it a little bit. You introed it this way. Things that are different, things that sound unlike anything or unlike most of what I've heard. That gives me like from the production standpoint, I'm trying to think of it's like a bop. It's like a Caribbean, almost like nice summer feel kind of thing. I mean, hence the name, Sun in the title, and I'm excited to hear the full track, and I love it. I like what I heard. I'm glad I was able to hear it through these headphones, as opposed to, like, you know what I'm saying, to get the full effect.
Yeah, the full experience.
Let me hear about a little bit about like what you were alluding to earlier, like influences and like how you approached this.
So I like working on the demo for this song. I was very playful with the vocals, and I'm like, this like melody that comes in at first, the vocals are almost kind of silly with the delivery. There's like almost like this funny little cartoony accent that's happening over the vocal, which is something that I like. I love it when artists do this. I think like Doja Cat does this, and started like a whole wave of musicians that do this with like kind of, you're almost like morphing into these different characters throughout the different parts of the song. So
Yes.
the song, in terms of its nature and its character, is very fluid, and you get to experience these different characters throughout the song vocally.
Yeah.
And this kind of like goofy cartoony version of it provides like almost like a folk southern type melody.
Yeah.
The like red eyes deep
Yeah.
in the sand, like that
Yeah.
sounds so southern, right?
Sure.
But then it's held in contrast with this much warmer vocal, which is more characteristic of my artist voice. I think most people would be more accustomed to me singing in like kind of the second portion of the vocal.
Yeah.
And what you don't really get to hear is there's this like hyper pop character that also is present throughout the song, which
Yeah.
is super fun, and I'm excited for the listeners and for you to hear it when it drops. But we've been very inspired by everything from world music to soul to, I mean, like Charlie XCX, who's like a hyper pop artist, just dropped a new album we're very inspired by. So this is like a melting pot of inspiration that feels very different, very like boundary breaking for my producer and I in terms
Yeah.
of what we've done before. Like
Yeah.
we're definitely in new territory now. But just like overall really exciting and fresh. So I figured this was the spot
Man,
to drop
I'm
a snippet.
I'm honored. I think this might be a first. Okay, this is a first exclusive. Dun, 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 dun. Like, I don't know if that's happened before here. And so I'll say this too, and then we'll really get ready to wrap. So like, being able to express yourself creatively and experiment and have fun and talk about it in a way that's exciting. Like, you love and you're very excited about what you created. I don't know if this is the case with, I don't know. It might be. I could be mistaken, but I feel like there's probably a decent amount of artists who make stuff that they make for people, but maybe they don't even love or they don't care for that much. Maybe. I don't know. I could be mistaken, but I do think that like, if you're excited, if you're like, oh man, this is dope. If you're like, this is dope. It's undeniable. I'm excited. Like, how did I create this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how did I even come up? Like, all those types of things. If that's really what's going on in your head, and you can see it, you just spoke about, and I see the excitement, and I think that's very, 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 very important. And I think just kind of hearing the explanation and understanding about what's happening there, because it is different. It's different. It's unique. And we need different out there. We need some stuff that's just like, that's what I love. When I listen to an album and I'm listening to it and it sounds like a track comes on. And I'm like, what is this? What I've never heard. I never heard anything close to this. I love that. That's what I love. And so I'm excited to hear this full track. I can't wait. When does it come out? I think you said in the email, but you can share with everyone.
It comes out July 26th, I
Okay.
think. I haven't
Somewhere
even
in there.
made, at the
Okay.
time of recording, I have not even made the announcement about this song. So it's really fun to get to share this with you and
Yes.
to get to share so much of the song after it's been like, I've been radio silent for so long. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so grateful that you were down to preview it with me and chat about it after our beautiful conversation, regarding content creation, regarding streaming, regarding authenticity. I feel like it's a great ending note on just like being weird, and being yourself and
Yes.
making the art that you find compelling and interesting and challenging. I don't want to make, I really would love to make art that like challenges the people that hear it and leaves them changed and leaves them inspired. So
What a perfect way to end this, right? You just brought back what we just talked about White Lotus and Demon Slayer. Like you're making and I'm making the stuff, like we're inspired to try to make something that maybe if one person feels the way that we feel about the TV shows and anime that we're talking about, if one person is moved in that type of way or somewhere close to it through your music or through my music or what we're doing, like there's nothing else that we won. We win if that happens. That's like amazing. That's incredible. So yes, thank you so much for your time. I am so happy that we were finally able to do this, and I'm excited to watch this whole thing with your fans and your audience and my fans and my audience. It's gonna be a blast next week.
yeah. Thank you all so much for having me, Khordmaster. I'm so glad this is years in the making, y'all. We talked about this back in 2022. This is wonderful. I feel like it's like really
man.
happening when it's supposed to,
Yeah,
So
100%.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
You as well.